I recently heard about a 12-year-old girl in Rochester, New York, who signed up to run a 5K race. She had never run a 5K before. In fact, she had only started running in her life 2 weeks earlier. But it was for a good cause that she believed in, and she thought maybe it'll be a little bit of fun, so she signed up to run. And on the morning of the race, she was running a little bit behind, and so when her mom dropped her off at the starting point, she jumped out of the car, she ran to join the other racers who were standing at the start line. The gun went off, and she took off. Mom went to the finish line to be there to congratulate her daughter on finishing her first 5K. But as Mom stood there and watched all the runners cross the line, her daughter never came. She eventually realized that there were no more runners who were going to cross this finish line, and she began to get a little worried. She contacted the police, and for the next 2 hours, they looked for her daughter, and after 2 hours, they finally found her. She was standing next to a police officer, and she was wearing a medal around her neck, and the medal said, Flower City Half Marathon. A half marathon is over 13 miles. A 5K is just a little over 3. It turns out that when she got to the starting line, she was in the right place, but she didn't know that a half marathon was scheduled to start from the same location 15 minutes before her race was supposed to start. So she really jumped in the race with the other half marathon runners. She didn't realize what was going on until about mile 7. She thought to herself, I don't think I'm in a 5K anymore. And she asked one of the other runners right next to her what was going on, told her what was going on. And she thought, well, if I've gone this far, might as well try to finish the whole thing. And she did. The race wasn't exactly what she was expecting, and yet she finished. If I told you that a 12-year-old girl who had only started running 2 weeks earlier had signed up to run a half marathon, what kind of odds would you give her for finishing that race? Would those odds be better or worse than the odds that you give yourself that you are going to finish your race? What kind of race are you running through life right now? What kind of course are you on? Is it the one that you thought you signed up for, or is it one that you didn't quite see coming? We get afraid when we can't determine the path ahead of us, but you don't need to be afraid. God says this in Jeremiah 29. He says, For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. In other words, you not knowing your course through life is okay, as long as God knows your course through life. And He does. And He's the God who knows how hard this course through life can be. You look at the course of the life of Jesus, and His course ended on a cross with a whole lot of pain. But from that pain, God gave you heaven. He gave you the greatest gift of all. And the God who was able to give you something so great through so much pain that Jesus' friends never saw coming, He looks at your life, He sees the things that you never see coming. And you can trust Him when He tells you that it's going to be okay.